Hello there, good afternoon, and welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt, and you can see I am joined by my right-handed man, my bearded brother. It is Paddy Boy, and it's a very, very happy Paddy Boy, and I'm pretty sure many of you people out there will also be happy because, as it says there at the top, Nancy and Tisdale have been sacked. That's right, Dumb and Dumber are out the building, and finally we can actually start, Paddy, trying to move forward and save this season. Before we go into the wee formalities, Paddy, I am sure that you will be absolutely buzzing, mate. You were a guy that nailed your colours to the mast after one game and says, simply not good enough. Get this man in the bin. He's in the bin, and how are you feeling?
Listen, mate, I don't want anybody to lose their job. Listen, we all live in a financially what's the word I'm looking for? Financially shitty world, right? Let's be fair. But yeah, the guy wasn't fit for Celtic. He wasn't fit. What I'm saying after the Hearts game, Steve, listen, I watched it and I was embarrassed. And I came on here and I said it, and everybody was like, God, the guy's been in charge one game. Give him a chance. Give him this. Give him that. Blah 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 blah. I got pelters for it. I don't claim to know everything about football. I don't claim to know a lot about football. But listen, I know shit football when I see it, and we were playing some shit football. Then in parts we started looking okay, but then when something changed, there was no plan B. And for me, mate, I am absolutely fucking delighted that man is out the building, along with the person who brought him in.
Absolutely, yes. It's a good news story indeed. Some would say long overdue, but let's be honest, as Terry Robb is saying there, the blue bin works every time. If you don't know what that is, a wee joke that Terry did, but he says, get this man in this bin immediately. And it was, unfortunately for us, it was the blue side of Glasgow that subsequently got him the bin. But do you know what? As much as I will never ever want to see Celtic lose, particularly against the baddies, if you had guaranteed me that was going to be the straw that snapped the camel's back for the board, then begrudgingly I would have to take it. I'll have to be honest with you there. I never want to lose to Rangers, but I knew that it was the only thing that was going to keep that guy away for this club. That was as simple as that. And we'll get into it, get it up nice and early. I know everybody's out there. It's the big news. Every podcast under the sun is out there, and some of the larger, bigger boys are out there. But thank you for joining us. If you're watching us live, if you're watching it retrospectively, then thanks for your continued support. Hit the subscribe button. Cost you nothing. We actually can't believe we're nearly at 3,500 now. We've just blown up, but we want a couple of extra ones. And let's get there further. So thank you very much to everybody that does that. Hit the subscribe. Cost you nothing. If you like it, give it the thumbs up. Share it. You know by now. All the social media links are down below. Paddy is currently talking to our contingent on TikTok, so you can get that there as well if you want. But yes, let's get down to business. The news is broke. Tisdale and Wilfried Nancy are in the bin. And if you haven't seen it, the statement was short and sweet. 3:08 this afternoon. Celtic Football Club today announces that it has decided to terminate the contract of manager Wilfried Nancy with immediate effect. The club thanks Wilfried for his efforts and wishes him and his family well for the future. Wilfried's assistants, Ampadu, Gurin and Charlier, are also leaving the club and will take with them our good wishes. The club can also confirm that Paul Tisdale has left his position as head of football operations. We thank you, Paul, for his contribution that he's made in that role, and a further update will be provided to supporters as soon as practical. Well, there you go. It is standard fare, but best wishes is all fine and farewell. But thanking Paul Tisdale for his efforts, Paddy. What exactly is a Paul Tisdale? I sat here last night and I brought up my concerns around this guy. It was quite simple. Neither he, neither Nancy could be trusted in this January window, mate. What do you think it's going to pan out? Where do we go from here, mate?
I'm just glad he's out the door, Steve-o. Where do we go from here? We bring somebody in who's got a proven record, a proven track record. We go down a similar route to what Hearts are doing. We look at the kind of data analysis stuff, rather than Mr. Tisdale just bringing in people who, I don't know, mate. I think he's responsible for guys like Balaquisha and things like that. Do you know what I mean? So you kind of look at the standard of what this guy's brought into the club, and it's been absolute drastic, mate. These guys should have been out of the club a long time ago. You say, what is a Tisdale? When they come in, we were kind of sitting there and we're trying to make a case for the guy, and we're going, yeah, he's done this, he's done that, blah, blah. We spells down south here, he's kind of been in and out of clubs and he's always done quite well. But when you actually sit down and look through it, he's done fuck all. He's done nothing. And that's the thing, mate. It's when you actually sit down and look through this and you go, wow, this guy is just a chancer that's been given a job by chance, basically, and he's been sitting in there stealing a wage. And he's been responsible for bringing in Wilfried Nancy, and obviously he's had to take the flak for that as well. But then if you go back on that and you look at Michael Nicholson's sitting there and he's like, oh, Wilfried Nancy was our first choice. He's the one that we scouted. We went and looked at him. He ticked all the boxes. Michael Nicholson's got to take something for that as well, mate. I don't think he should be sitting there going, yeah, look what I've done for these guys. I've managed to get rid of Tisdale and I've got rid of the manager as well. Only 2 weeks ago, mate, you were sitting in front of the media going, look what I've did. I've brought this guy in. He's your number one candidate. Do you know what I mean? And that's what gets me. They're doing that as if they've done us a favour. But they're the ones that basically signed off on this guy. So they're got to be held to contempt as well.
Yes, Paul. Yes, he is. He is gone. He's in the bin. I said last night jokingly, never trust a guy who is more about fashion consciousness over football awareness. You know, you can't be having a guy in a pork pie hat and a crushed velvet jacket, the one that you're pinning your hopes on. A used car salesman, if ever I saw one, a grifter, a chancer. And as I said before, Paddy, look at where he's been. You know, director of football, he's noted as being at Celtic when you look at his bio, although it was head of football operations, manager of Stevenage, an advisor at Colchester, manager at Bristol Rovers, manager at MK Dons, and manager at Exeter. It is not world class in everything that we do. It is an absolute charlatan. That's what the man is. And as you said, Paddy, we sat there and we tried to make a case for it. You always do. You read a wee bit about them. You maybe look beyond the managerial experience and that they've sort of integrated themselves into other pathways in football and thought, you know what, this guy might be in there and he might be one of these more modern thinking guys. But the reality is, when we actually look at what he has or hasn't done at Celtic, his CV is absolutely dire. And he had to go. When I sat on here last night, Paddy, my concerns is that, you know, if he was to be sacked, Nancy being that person I'm talking about there, then that would mean that Tisdale would have to go because he was the guy that brought him in. And also, that would then, once he was emptied, it would shift focus onto our CEO. It would put Michael Nicholson on it because at the end of the day, he's the guy that appointed the guy and signed off on it. Now, on that, here's something that gets sent to me as well. This is a direct quote from principal shareholder Dermot Desmond upon the arrival of Wilfried Nancy. In appointing Wilfried to Celtic, we believe that we have brought in a hugely talented manager to the club. He is a man who absolutely understands the demands at Celtic. He is a man of real humility, but also someone with his own ideas, his own vision, and such a personal drive and desire to do well for the club and our supporters. Everyone at the club will unite strongly behind Wilfried as we move forward and ensure that we give him our unwavering support as we strive to achieve our objectives. Now, that is the man that we know, rightly or wrongly, has the final sign-off on everything at Celtic. And he's given him a resounding big clap, big 2 thumbs up, mustachio approved. I mean, Paddy, I just want to ask you, how did this guy manage to con his way into a job at Celtic?
Again, Steve, I don't know. We sat and looked at it and we went over statistics. We've looked at, well, you've seen that thing that was on X as well, and it was his last 8 games at Columbus Crew and his last 8 games at Celtic. Yeah. And I think out of that 16 games, he's like 4 wins.
Since September, yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous standard. And to come in and you watch his interviews, and he's sitting there saying things like the ball is the ball and it's about performance, not results and things like that. If you are in at Celtic, mate, if you are there and you are, as these so-called board members call themselves, Celtic fans, and they're sitting there and a guy comes in and goes, yes, I'm all about performance, I'm all about this, I'm all about that, the result doesn't matter. You look at this guy and you go, listen, mate, thanks for your time. There's the door. Enjoy your night. Do you know what I mean? It's like the old Kevin Bridges sketch when you're in the booze and the guys are telling you how to run the country. Enjoy your night, pal. That's exactly what should have been said to Wilfried Nancy, mate. He should have just been tapped on the shoulder and went, on you go, mate. You go back out. There's a one-way ticket back out to America.
Yeah, absolutely.
Martin O'Neill was doing a fantastic job. And I don't think Martin would actually even consider a return now because of the way he's been treated by it. I think Martin would have liked to stay. I think he would have liked to stay. I think he would have enjoyed the challenge. But I think because basically Celtic turned around and gave the job to this charlatan before even considering giving Martin a chance, then I think he'll be on the road out. So yeah.
Well, that's the thing. As we say, the big thing, we found out that the candidates that were actually interviewed were said to be Robbie Keane, which we know that's not everybody's bag, not everybody's flavour. I do think, and I will say in fairness to Robbie Keane, that despite the backdrop and everything, the baggage that goes with him, as much as I don't want him and didn't want him then, I still think that he would have been a guy that would have truly understood the management situation at Celtic and been able to get something more out of this team. We also know that Kieran McKenna was one that was interviewed, but of course there was various financial, and I know not necessarily the money to get him in the door, but he was on a lot of promises at his current club if he gets into the Premier League again. So he's not going to walk away for that as well. And he also would think if he did that, his stock goes higher and he gets a bigger job. And then there was also the surprise package that was Ange Postecoglou was spoken to, but after getting emptied out in the fashion, everything that went down with Nottingham Forest, he wasn't the right headspace. He seemed a wee bit disillusioned and it wasn't the right time for him. So that definitely then asks the question of how did we arrive at Wilfried Nonsi? There was the links between obviously his assistant manager who knew Tisdale, and I think you've got to say it's very much been something that's been penned with his hand. And probably I think this is the problem with not having particularly football-minded guys in certain positions. And what I mean by that, I know Tisdale's been in about football, but if you're going to have someone that's a head of football operations or it's going to be someone, a head director of football, then I would say, unpopular opinion, if it was in-house right now, I think Sean Maloney knows enough. He's been around enough that he would be he could really eyeball people and understand what they're getting sold in the pitches and when they try to sell themselves, right? Or if it was a Martin O'Neill or even like we've seen like a Kenny Dalglish, someone like that, someone with actual proper football and background that can see right through a con artist, right? Because I'm pretty sure that this guy, much like Russell Martin did at Rangers, probably sat there with a brilliant, flashy PowerPoint and he told them all this stuff about how he works. But the big question is, Paddy, and I just want to return back to it, a guy who in total for now to get emptied has won 4 games since September, and his last 8 games before he came to Celtic, he had 2 wins, 4 losses and 2 draws and was sitting 7th in the MLS, mate. How the fuck does that get signed off on?
I know, mate. I've no idea. Listen, I'm kind of catching up on all of the stuff on TikTok here as well. Loads of people getting in contact with us, saying guys like, obviously you said there, Steve, Robbie Keane. Obviously, Robbie's got the kind of links with Israel because he managed a team out there and stuff. But again, is doing a fantastic job at Ferencváros. McKenna, sorry, these kind of guys that we spoke about, Steve. Somebody else in the comments obviously there as well saying that Ange is already in Parkhead. Obviously, the rumour mill is going to be rife.
Here we go, mate. Announcement at 8 o'clock. Well, that's
exactly, that's it. Announcement coming at 8. Of course, all of that kind of garbage be kicking about. But listen, whether he's at Parkhead, whether he's not at Parkhead, whether he's speaking to people, we've no idea. The rumour mill is just going to go absolute crazy just now. People in there saying as well, mate, I don't think we should go back the way. I think giving Sean Maloney the job, I think, isn't a step back. I think that's a bit of positivity until we find the right person. Do we then start to look at guys like Nicky Hyen again? Do we start to look at Keitel Knutson? Comments in there saying that as well, mate.
I'm going to jump in, on that. I'm just going to say, getting the Knutson thing in the bin, it's not going to happen, right? I'm fed up of hearing about it. Guy's no interested. Sorry, mate.
He basically came out and said that, didn't he? He came out and said he was quite happy in his wee bubble, and we highlighted that. The Keitel Knutson, that's in the bin. But what about Nicky Hyen then, Steve? Is he one that we should maybe look at?
My understanding is I might be wrong on this one. I'd heard that he'd agreed to take a job at either Genk or Ghent. So I had a wee look, and I'll bring this up here. This is the infamous bookies, of course. This is the specials of who you've got. Now, it will come as no surprise, obviously, Paddy. The top of the pile there as a favourite is, of course, going to be Martin O'Neill. Now, we know that he's meant to be in the sort of general vicinity, and he'd obviously turned away various things due to the John Robertson funeral. Now, it says here, this is what we've got. This is just on Sky Bet right now as we sit. Martin O'Neill's 4-9 favourite. Ange Postecoglou 41 with Maloney in behind at 11-2. You're then starting to widen the net. 91, Robbie Keane. Notable other names are Kieran McKenna, 11-1, Scott Brown, 14-1, Solskjaer, give us none of that. Bellamy sits at 14-1. Mowbray, believe it or not, 60-1. This is as underwhelming as it gets, as is Roberto Martinez. Now, I sat on here last night and said that from a long-term planning, I think he would be someone who I wouldn't be against. A lot of people rubbish that he's useless, he's not done that. But I keep pointing out, Belgium, Portugal, those are good big jobs, and he does have experience elsewhere. I think if you've got Maloney in situ, it would be an easy transition. But do I see Celtic going down that route? No. You've then got your usual stuff, your Damien Duffs, your Lampards. The current Motherwell manager, 16-1. Again, I don't think he's a guy that scales up. And then if you want to go completely mental and have a laugh, you can get Roy Keane at 33-1, Maresca at 25-1, or even Neil Lennon at 18-1.
See, going by all of these, Steve-o, I think I'm about 33-1 for the job, mate. So as well stick a fiver myself, wouldn't I? I don't know what's going on here. Going by all of these names, mate, I reckon Sean Maloney's your man. I reckon until the end of the season. Do we bring back Fozzie? What's the deal with Stevie Woods? Does Stevie now, is he just out the window? Not even an announcement by Celtic, by the way, which I thought was absolutely disgraceful. That guy's given his life to Celtic Football Club. He's given like what 20 years or something, mate, to Celtic Football Club. He's been there. He's been an absolute legend to the club, and not even an announcement for Celtic, which I thought was absolutely disgusting. Again, mate, it's just going to be absolute rumour mill until we get somebody in the door. People there saying Scott Brown as well, but I'm in the opinion that it's a bit early for Scott. I love Scott to bits. He was a fantastic captain. He was a leader. He's a legend of our club. But at this minute in time, I don't think the Celtic job is the one for him at this present time. I think Scott would do a fantastic job. Of course I do. But I think he needs that wee bit more experience. And I think he would tell you that himself.
Yep, so there we go. Hine is at Ghent as we expected. Again, that was someone who, as early as you, Patty, after those 2-3 games, you know, if you made that decision, you might have been able to revisit that one, but it is what it is. So just on this, let's talk about it, right? Because there's been the obvious one, as you see, with the bookies, and if you speak to, you listen to Chris Sutton and all that, it's like, would you get Martin Neal in? Now, this is the thing here. Let's just discuss that, because that is, to be honest with you, is a temp thing. I think it makes sense that going to training, we'll look at the game at the weekend. In the short term, Sean Maloney just assumes the position again. He slides back in there. It's a familiar face. Fire up the old machine. It is what it is. But there's no doubt we then need to start looking. Obviously, we'll get the John Robertson funeral thing out of the way. So in terms of coming in immediately this week, you can bin what I might be wrong here, but I would say you could probably write off the idea Martin Neal coming in this week. The big question is let's just say he wanted to, because we heard from Fozzie, we heard from others that he'd actually got into his head that he quite fancied it and he wanted to stay about. Now, I will be honest with you, let's not rewrite history. He got a tune out the team. They were starting off well. The performances weren't great, but they were grinding through. The big question I always say is we're keeping on a Neal. It would only work if you were having him there and he was with Maloney to get to the summer, because someone that works with Maloney, i.e. Martinez, is coming in and then you can set the foundations. Otherwise, you can't really make informed decisions in January. We have you the summer, European qualifiers and stuff like that. But surely if you go and revisit the Martin Neal thing, I know he does your turn, but surely he would be wanting like a 18-month contract or something, like to the summer and then a year roll. And you surely to God, you couldn't just go up and go, mate, listen, why do that again for us whilst we dick about and try and get it? Because this is the point. It's a January transfer window, mate. We need to get players in. So the manager, whoever is going to be in charge, is going to have an element of control over it. So you surely couldn't just say to him, on in, mate, and like, you know, for a cup of coffee at the end of the season.
I get that, and when you look at Martin's age as well, obviously age is a massive part of this. What is Martin, 74? And he's sitting there and
73, I think.
73, say 73-year-old, right? You say, do you want this job for a year? Do you think Martin's going to take that for a year? I think he was quite happy to take the role for a set period of time, for a maybe couple of month period here and there. But I don't think he's wanting a full-time job. Do you know what I mean? He's quite happy doing his radio appearances, doing his wee guest appearances in pubs and clubs and whatever all around the place. He can make enough off of that to have a nice, comfortable life. I'm sure he's not short of a few quid either. But I don't think a position like, do you want to be manager until a year and a half, man, 2 years? Yeah. I don't think he would take that personally. I think he was quite happy to come in and accept the role and hold the reins, as it were, until we got a new manager in. But I think it was quite shocking how it all went about how he was just kind of, right, Martin, that's you. See you later, mate. Out you go. I think he should have got that wee chance. Right, this is Martin's last game. Please, do you know what I mean? Like, I know we kind of got something like that, but I felt like we should have got a wee bit more. And I feel like he should have got a nice send off.
I mean, the reaction to the idea, Martin, was obviously folk will always come around to that. Steve was saying, let's not 4-0 at Falkirk and 3-1 about final. Let's not spin an art if it's poor. It's not true. Well, it was true. Those were two highlights. And then look at the latter games when they came out. The performances were extremely testing. That's not to say it was a bad thing. It's just what we're saying is it wasn't absolutely guaranteed. And I went on record to turn around saying that with the way those sort of last 2 games or so under O'Neill were really grinding, and that is the thing. We kept going, but the form wasn't as convincing. A wee bit of the initial magic had sort of worn off. That some of the results that we got, i.e. against Hearts, that could have still been in the post under O'Neill. There's no guarantees, but I would have definitely felt a lot more confident. I will say that having O'Neill in for those games than we did with him. But Paddy, bring it back round. We're talking about getting rid of these guys. The questions are who brought these guys in? Well, we know it was Tisdale that brought these guys in. Did you think that the writing was on the wall? Results aside, just when you heard guys like McCown, now again, that really split opinion. Some folk were saying out of order, shut your fucking mouth and all that kind of stuff because you're letting the cat out the bag. You're exposing the inner workings, the dysfunction to the masses, and it'll get jumped on. Folk love to get their claws into it. I think that Luke McCown, there was the rumours about Luke McCown and Yang and so on getting brought in and having a wee chat with him and getting told this is what they're going to do and going against what they think they should be able to do. He didn't fill you with confidence, Paddy, about there's not really much we can do. He's a manager and we need to get behind him. Do you think that this has simply been a decision based on results, based on the carnage outside the stadium after that loss to Rangers? Or do you also think there's another level to it? Do you think there's maybe been discussions with senior players and those upstairs to go, by the way, this is only going to go one way?
The rumour mill was quite rife with stuff like that, wasn't there? There was the kind of one where Kieran Tierney had apparently had a go at him at half-time one of the games, and then apparently Callum had pulled him aside and Dysam had to get involved in a stramash between a couple of players, and obviously Luke McCown has been visibly upset the last couple of games, and you can see that. So when Luke McCown's interview came out, mate, and I started listening to that, I'm looking at it going, geez, that's a bit close to the bone. He's not really held back there. He's a manager. What can we do? We've got to do it. Doesn't matter if we don't agree, basically. He's kind of sitting there basically saying, this guy's telling us to do something we don't want to do. And he kind of hints as well a wee bit in that, Steve, if you listen to it back. He says about them in the second half, about them noticing Rangers changing the formation, but them not having the option to change on the park. They didn't have the basic fucking tools to.
I think his actual word, was he just says they changed it, and the manager, meaning Nancy, didn't.
Aye, but he kind of hints to us not being able to do it on the park as well, which I think we had spoke about. That is up to one of the senior players to go, listen, guys, I know he's a manager, but he's got it wrong. Fuck him. This is what we're going to do. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what it was going to come to. I think obviously there must have been big discussions in there. Arguments basically with Wilfried Nancy. But I felt like maybe the Luke McCown thing's been the final nail to get this across the line. Obviously the result against Rangers has been massive towards it as well. And I'm in the same boat as you, Steve. If you told me that Celtic were going to lose that game and it would get rid of this guy, then I'd been like, I no bother, take the 3 points up the road, see you later. Do you know what I mean? Quite happy to see him out the door. And that kind of shows you to the extent of how I felt he was doing at this club, mate. It was absolutely breaking my heart every single game. It really was.
And that's the thing. See that opinion you've got there? It really is. It's gut-wrenching. It's it's like a knife to the heart. Nobody wants to say it. And I know that there'll be people that might jump on this and go, not a real Celtic sport. You want to see Rangers beating Celtic? Absolutely not. Not at all. But I think it got to that stage of just sheer apathy, mate, where it's like, the only thing that was going to get this guy emptied was going to be losing to Rangers. That was the reality of it. Games elsewhere, yes, every game's important. You have to win every game at Celtic. I don't think he grasped that. But you certainly need to beat Rangers at Celtic Park, or at bare minimum, do not get defeated. take a draw, and certainly don't get fucking embarrassed. And that's what happened. It was an absolute embarrassment. And ultimately, yeah, it was the only thing that was going to shift them. It came quite quick. And a lot of people are saying, I just want your thoughts on it, Paddy. It turned a bit unsavoury outside. Right now, I sat on here last night and I commented on it. And again, as you'd imagine, some people jumped all over it. You're out of order. You're judging Celtic fans. How dare you? It's understandable that they're angry. I get it. Listen, I was fuming. I'm not going to sit here and lie. Absolutely fuming. But it's about self-control. And as I say, it's trying to keep the moral high ground. Now, ultimately, did that contribute? I dare say it did. But my worry was that kind of behaviour wasn't going to make this lot back down. I also seen as well, Paddy, folk were posting pictures and videos of, I believe it was Michael Nicholson, filming people.
Yes.
See, on hindsight and thinking back about it, they're like, that just shows you the contempt. He's taking films and laughing at us. I actually think, again, based on nothing, he's probably been sending the videos into a wee group chat to your man Desmond and going, look at this, by the way. This can't keep going on. This is absolute boom. This is just, a breaking point. This can't happen. Look at what's happening. Folk are kicking off. Folk are going mental. This is only going to get worse and worse and worse. You need to do something. You need to, as sad as it is, give us the authority to make the call.
No, listen, mate, I totally agree with you 100%. I think he was taking the video and going, right, look, we're going to make a police escort out here, mate. And this is what it's come to. And obviously the board had to leave via one of the side exits, as far as I'm led to believe. And you've seen the videos of the players getting torrents of abuse as they're walking down the Celtic way towards the bus to go home and stuff. So it's not what my approach would have been, but I understand why people were frustrated and why they went to those extremes. And I firmly believe that Nicholson and Mackay and whoever else were taking those videos and whatever, it's been sent on as a kind of a final straw, basically. The video I didn't like was the one of Mackay when he threw the Celtic scarf on the ground and kind of looked as if he stamped on it when the guy threw the scarf at him and stuff. Obviously, we understand it's not nice for people to throw stuff at you and whatever else, but take a bit of ownership at least. You know what I mean? If you're in a high-profile job, you expect to take a bit of abuse here and there. The best thing he could have done with that, mate, he knows he's getting videoed, he knows there's cameras on him. Take the scarf and put it around his neck. I'm one of yous. Do you know what I mean? That's a total different story, other than throwing it in the ground and looking as if you're putting it. Do you know what I mean?
I spoke about this last night, Paddy, and I says I'm different for you. That's a great thing about opinions. I personally went, it just shows the disdain, the character, how easily discarded the Celtic shirt, scarf. And I went, I really don't care. I was like, I know it doesn't look good. I was like, but again, just joking, it could be fucking stinking. Somebody chucks something at you, you'd be like, get off me, you know. So I get it. Was he meant to like politely fold it and place it down? I don't know. Personally, I didn't think about it, but in general, it could have. It'd be like whenever the pie gets thrown at Shanklin and they take a bite out, you can make light of it, right? So I do get that, right?
Danny Alves one, mate, with the banana. Remember that? Somebody threw a banana at Danny Alves trying to be racist.
That's the way he replied to these things.
I love that. That's the kind of reply I was expecting.
2 fingers up and call these folk out and do it. So no, he could have. But listen, these guys are in a different world. They're not going to do that. That's the kind of thing that you would do, or that I would probably do, right? But no, on the protests and on the way it kicked off. Again, I've seen it online on different podcasts and our comments. People saying it wasn't that bad and it's understandable. Look, everybody, all to their own. You can have your own view on it. I'll always give you my own view on it, and I'll always give you an unfiltered and honest and authentic view. For me, no for me. We say a million times on here, we are 100% making our voice clear, letting people know that change is needed, that what's been served up is unacceptable. We always plead to folk, keep it legal, keep it above board, keep the moral high ground. Don't embarrass yourself, because these are the things, Paddy, that we slag off other fan bases for. And then, we're doing it, and somehow it's all right because it's us. It's not all right. It's a redneck, and that's it. And I did think it got a wee bit out of hand. But do you know what? It's a mood change now, because look at the game against Dundee United. That, I think, would have been absolutely hell on earth, Paddy. Hell on earth. I still expect that there will be some level of protest, maybe gatherings outside directed at the board. But ultimately, the biggest decision, the decision that had to be made, which is emptying Tisdale, emptying Nancy and his backroom staff, has been done. It doesn't make the board good. because they're still useless. But at the same time, we've got to say, well, they actually made the right decision here.
Yeah.
Recalibrate, get behind whoever's going to be in the dugout for the game against Dundee United, give it a roll and get behind it, try to focus and move forward, and then see where they go for here. Ultimately, changes need to happen, right? Nicholson, Mackay, whoever else, there needs to be gradual changes, but that's us get some big hitters. Wall's out the window, Tisdale's out the window, Nancy's out the window. It's, it had to happen, but it's a start. So the question is, Paddy, though, can we even trust them to get this next appointment, whoever that may be, whether it's a temporary, whether it's a permanent, right? Because the clock's ticking. It's the 5th of January. We've got to the end of the month for the transfer window. We've still got some big games upcoming. And we're all at sea. We're down the creek without a paddle, mate.
Aye, that's it, mate. These were easy wins for the board, weren't it? These were ones that people could throw under the bus. Collateral damage, that was it. Lawwell was the first pass, and he was the first one out there. Like, yep, throw him to the wolves, no bother. He basically come out and said he was getting taunts of abuse, his family were getting abused, blah, blah. Make it look bad on the fans again, but at the end of the day, he was the first one thrown out, that's fine. Then we get Tisdale and Nancy, and they're the two easy ones, in my opinion, to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
The others still have to go, let's be honest. Like I said, Michael Nicholson, he should be held accountable for not investing in the club. I said it on here previously, if you're the chairman or the CEO of any business, and one decision that you make, whether that's as a group or as an individual, and that costs your company £40 million, you should not be in a job. You should get your ass handed to you. And that's as simple as it comes, mate. That's it. So I still believe that he's got to be held accountable for that. As for the rest of them, mate, they're all in sugary pegs at the minute. And I just feel like we need to get it together. We need to get somebody in who's going to tighten the reins, and going forward, mate, I think we've got to be positive, haven't we? We've got to remain positive here. I think there will be...
No choice.
We've got to be, mate. Listen, we need a striker in as well. Let's be honest, that's the first thing we need in the door, is a striker. I think the boycotts and stuff, obviously I'm still in one of the chats here with the collective group, and the boycotts at the minute are being discussed, whether that's all still going to go ahead, because I believe there was going to be quite a large boycott at the next game, and I don't know if that's been fed back, and obviously maybe been another contributing factor to tonight's events. But yeah, listen, mate, it's good that he's gone. It's good that Tisdale's gone, but we need to get the ball rolling. Like you said, early transfer window. We've still got time to go, but we need the players now. We still need to be getting those results, because you look at that game against Rangers, mate. How many chances did Kenny squander? How many chances did others squander? Do you know what I mean? We need quality in the door, and we need to get it sorted, mate.
So Paddy, see on that, since Tisdale is out the window, since Wilfried Nancy's out the window, and the idea would be that you were going to try and get him in guys, whether it be permanent or on loan, that would work to his system. That clearly now doesn't fit. What does that mean then? And what's your thoughts on the rumour mill that was obviously Jocelyn Tabi, the winger, Ignacio La Quintana, again, over from Brazil on the wing, and ultimately the boy from Columbus Crew, the centre half. They've all surely got to be in the bin now, have they not?
They've got to be. If these are guys that Mr. Tisdale's identified, these are guys that he's brought in and said, oh, these are going to be your next signings, do you just then turn around and go, nah, you're all right, mate, I don't want them? It'll be getting back down the old Brendan cause, won't it? These are club signings. These are these are my decisions and stuff like that. So again, a manager coming in should be allowed to bring his own players, his own backroom staff. We had that previously when we had backroom staff in there, and we're wanting managers to come in with their own group, basically people that they can come in and bed in there. We need Celtic players. We need players to come into Celtic, who are going to hit the ground running, and we need the manager who's coming in to identify them. So first step, mate, we need a manager as of tonight, as of tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? We need it fucking sharp. And I don't just want anybody straight off of the thing, mate. I want this to be the right appointment. It has to be the right appointment. As we said previously with Wilfried Nancy, it has to be somebody who's going to be able to take it on the shoulders. The Celtic job is a big job, and you need to be able to handle the expectation of winning every single week.
Yeah, this is my theory. How far Punch is saying that Tabai is apparently agreed, and as people are saying, I can't believe why we're paying 2 million and up bids for a guy that's about 500 grand at best in the Israeli league, playing at a mediocre team who has a complete career turnout of 40 games, 7 goals and 5 assists. I mean, it is what it is. It's just absolutely screams and shouts of another Taneke. Dare I say it, another Yang. I've got to give the guy credit. He's turned it around. But ultimately, what I mean is Yang going to be long term a guy that you say is a first name on the team sheet, main winger that you depend on week in, week out? I don't think so.
I know. Listen, he played well that first half against Rangers, mate. Yang was outstanding. Apparently, the boy, is it Tiba or whatever his name is? Apparently, he has agreed. I'm getting lots of comments on the TikTok there as well, saying that he's going to be announced pretty sharpish. Listen, we've got guys coming back off their loan and stuff as well. Apparently, Louis Palmer's on his way back. Am I right in saying that?
I'm unsure. I think
I think want him, don't they?
Yeah, and then obviously you'll get the return of Taneke for what that's worth. Balikwisha, again, these guys come back for AFCON, but I don't think that any of them are really got what it takes. I mean, you look at the fact that even guys like Shin Yamada, we had Brendan Rodgers didn't fancy it, Martin O'Neill didn't fancy it. He gave him some time because he probably had to, but even so, Wilfried Nonce didn't even fancy that. So there's no doubt that we've got so many variables at this point in this January that need to get right. So let's just jump in real quick. As we said, we're doing a wee quick whistle-stop tour reaction to this one. Everybody's asking the simple question, who do we want to come in? Who would be a preferred choice? What do you think we need? Now, we've read through some of those candidates there, Paddy, and ultimately it's going to go one of two ways. I think that the idea of it being Maloney short term, and or Martin O'Neill short term is just that. It's short termism. Celtic are still very much in the fight. We have a great opportunity. We're at the optimum time. We're in the January transfer window. We've got all that money sitting there. The board have made 1,000,001 mistakes. They are ultimately to blame for where we find ourselves. But at the same time, in a weird twist of fate, they have got the greatest opportunity to go out there and absolutely bury this transfer window. Dig is right out the hole, which just sounds ridiculous because, I wouldn't trust them to run a bath. But they could do it, and they could get in a manager that's going to help us do that. Now, do you think that it needs to be somebody of a calibre that's going to be till the summer and beyond? Or are you because I just feel that going with the temp route to the summer is a risk, because Celtic 6 points behind Hearts. We are still very much in it, even with the baddies in a transfer window. This league is not over. This option to try and get a double is not over.
No, I think Sean Maloney at the minute would be a good one to step in, and I think obviously he will. I think that'll be the case. I don't know whether we'll get Martin back in. I don't know whether we'll have somebody else, whether Fozzie and that will come back. I'm not sure how it's going to work, who's going to have as his backroom staff. Probably somebody like Stephen McManus in there with him again. But I think Sean Maloney would be the one. A lot of people saying obviously Sean Maloney until the summer, until after the World Cup, and then we can look at guys like Roberto Martinez, because obviously he's in charge of Portugal at the minute and wouldn't consider any other jobs, and you would get that kind of role again. That to me at the minute, that would be a pipe dream. That would be one for me. Martinez, I think, would be a good one to bring in. That experience. He's worked with so many big teams. Again, you've got the argument, has he done much with those kind of big teams? Obviously, Belgium were expected to win the World Cup. They were expected to win the Euros. Portugal again as well. You could maybe argue that. But at the minute, mate, I think somebody like that kind of calibre, I think we should be looking towards. And I think having Sean Maloney in there to steady the ship, again, possibly with Martin O'Neill, it might happen. We don't know. But I would rather that than go back to guys like Ange, or, like you say, Steve, we'll bring in somebody just for the sake of having somebody in the seat.
Paddy, I never thought I'd say this, and maybe it shows a sign of the times and a wee bit of desperation. I honestly think I would take Ange. Right? I would. Really? I would, and I'll tell you why. Is because we'll need a manager. If you're getting a permanent manager, if it's somebody who's coming in permanently, right, for the off, for January, I hate this. Do you get the City? None of that. I just mean they need to understand the gravity of the situation, right? They need to know what they're coming into. They need to know the expectations, and they need to grasp that in their head that they don't have a choice. It's do or die, right? I just think when I look through the options that have been thrown out there, when I look at some of the names, and I think to myself, right, Robbie Keane, as I says, he probably would get the idea, but still don't want it for obvious reasons. I'm thinking, look, McKenna, Brown, Solskjaer, Bellamy. Do I think these guys are going to come in and just knuckle down and get on with it and know what it takes? Honestly, no. I think they'll come in and they'll try to stabilise things, but they want to put their own twist on it. I think Ange is probably the only guy that could come in right now, similar to Martin O'Neill, but beyond, that would just hit the ground running, know exactly what's happening, and still a sort of confidence, a mindset, and fire on with it. Listen, I don't want to go back. I'll be totally honest with you. In an ideal world, but I want to be honest. I know I don't really want to, but it maybe just shows how desperate the situation is. I think everybody that's floating about there in the ether is the only person that I think comes in, gets an instant buy-in, because there'll be guys in that squad that he's worked with, instant lift, instant buy-in, and that's what Celtic need. Yes, we'll criticise the fact about he's a guy that's an idealist and he doesn't change things, but at the same time, he's been long in the tooth. He's seen himself get sacked at Spurs for not changing. We saw what happened at Nottingham Forest. I just think he comes in and he understands and plugs his brain in and stabilises the ship, Paddy.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you to an extent, but I just, I'm one of these guys, I don't think that going back is going to help us out. I slated Big Ange because Plan A was brilliant, but when Plan A didn't work, Plan B was do Plan A better. And I stuck by that. Brendan Rodgers was very, very similar. And then Nancy was just a different animal altogether. But I would much rather have somebody like Maloney in there until we find somebody, rather than bring in somebody like Ange. I understand what you're saying, somebody that knows the club and whatever else, and we know he can take the pressure and things like that. Do you then give him that transfer window to bring in guys, obviously, like before? And whoever comes in, they're going to have to be promised money and stuff as well, Steve, let's be honest. They're going to need to be given quite a substantial transfer budget to sort that team out. But yeah, it's all just going to be absolute madness, absolute rumour mill until the time where Celtic come out and tell us. But listen, I'm going to have to jump out, Steve. I'm going to have to call it.
I'll finish up, mate. Yeah, I know you've got stuff on. So
thank you so much, guys, and I really appreciate all the support.
See you later, mate. Bye-bye. Yep, so there we go. What's your thoughts? Look, we'll finish ourselves up here shortly. Let us know what your thoughts is. Who would you want out there? Understand there's a lot of love for Ange Postecoglou. There's a lot of sort of apprehension about it, and totally, as I just said there, in an ideal world, would that be my choice? Honestly, no, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. I think that he done well, served us well at the time. There was obviously a lot that could have been done. He wasn't getting adequate quality. As we well know, look, a recurrent issue with every manager, it seems, at Celtic. Would he come back? That is the question. We were told that he was part of the interviewing process, but it wasn't right for him there. But I just feel that, as I said, and I'll repeat again, out of all the names that are out there, of all the candidates, and I see the likes of Marco Rose, there's always been a lot of love for Marco Rose and stuff there as well. But I just feel that Marco Rose is very much a guy that, I don't know, he's a bit of sort of, he was hot shit at one point, and then it never really worked out for him. So I think that for me, that's really, he's been out of job for so long, and I think that he would probably slip into that sort of same mindset that you've seen for like an Amarin at Man United, that he'll be set in his ways and he'll want to do certain things away. People are asking me who would my choice be. Honestly, as I said, I can't get around it. The only person I can think of out of the candidates that are out there that I genuinely believe comes in and is tooled up, well, it's either one of two, isn't it? And again, I think both seem a wee bit underwhelming. It's either a return of the Martin with the Fozzie and stuff, and you say, no, it's going to be an 18-month contract, build for now, January, hit the ground running and work into summer, or you go back to Ange Postecoglou. Both are backward steps, I think, but they're the only two that I feel come into the club, understand what needs to be done right away, and have a buy-in with the players that are already in the building. Ange, there's pretty much as an Ange team sitting here, let's be honest. He comes in, I think it lifts so many guys. Martin O'Neill and that come back again, I think it probably lifts so many guys, but it only really lifts them for any period of time if it's got longevity in it. If it's, well, I'm back as Martin O'Neill and I'll be here until they find a new manager, I think that starts to diminish over time. If it's not, I am the boss, I'm here, I'm going to be here this summer and I'm going to be there for at least a season beyond, I think that really picks everybody up. I just don't think that any of the candidates that are out there are really bowling me over. And most of them as well that you're going to have to look at, as I said, a lot of them you're going to have to take away from other clubs. I know that another name that gets thrown about has been the boy at Motherwell. And there's no doubt he is a very good manager. He speaks very well and he's clear and concise in what he's saying when you hear him in interviews. But let's not forget as well that it took him 4 months to get his team up and running. That's in itself is a concern. And I just think as well, when you listen to the way that he spoke about Motherwell and the fit for him, and he's trying to compare it to Scandinavian smaller teams, he's very much into the mindset of we are a small team and a big pond, but we can punch above our weight. So I think that sometimes that managerial mindset just works in a smaller sort of confines. It works. It just helps you scale up, particularly when expectation levels aren't as high as at Celtic. The expectation levels will always be to try and win and punch above your weight. And that's good. It's good being the little train that could, but see when you're the big train that's meant to be powering through, it completely shifts the mindset. And I just don't think he is ready, much like Wilfried Nonsi wasn't ready for a job at Celtic. So for me, I don't think that I'd take him. I can see obviously there's a lot of people, there is a lot of love there for him. Yes, he does know the game and he understands what's happening here, but at the same time, it's understanding the gravity of the expectations of Celtic. And I just feel that a job like that probably spooks him. I think he'd come in very headstrong with ideas of what he wants to do. But once the reality starts to bite, I think as well, that's when it starts to spook him. What I would also say as well is that if you have a manager like him, no disrespect to him. See if you go to the Marvel manager and say you want to come to Celtic, bite your hand off for it. But much like Wilfried Nonsi, he probably falls into the category of feeling fortunate and just happy to be there. And that's not what I want for a manager. I don't want somebody that feels happy to be there. Now, again, I've mentioned Ange, and we can go back there. And yeah, do you know what? He probably was happy to be there because he knew that he was setting fiddle to the failed experiment that was trying to get in Eddie Howe. But with that, he also had a background of winning. He was long in the tooth. He managed internationally. And he went, you know what? Well, that's it. This is what I'm at. But I just feel that he comes in with a stronger mindset. The likes of him or the likes of, again, if it was to be Martin O'Neill on a longer term basis, they come in with a stronger mindset. And again, the problems have been this jostling with the board, trying to get the quality and trying to get the signings in. But this board are in such a shit state of affairs right now, worse than it's ever been. We said the last time getting Nancy in that was a decision they could not afford to get wrong. They could not afford to fuck that one up, and they still managed to do it. The magnifying glass isn't just on them. The sun's absolutely firing through it and it's burning into their skin. That's how intense they are under scrutiny. It is beyond, it's beyond reason to think that this one gets messed up by them. They have no choice. They have to get this one right. And that means getting in a manager of quality that will understand what it is, but also it's bending at the knee and actually giving that manager that comes in the door what they want. Because see now that the distraction that is Paul Tisdale is out the fucking building as well, it's going to fall back pretty much onto the manager. It's going to fall back onto the manager to try and establish players that they think can bring into the team, do a job for them between now and the summer. So there is a lot of responsibility on that as well. And again, the Ange Postecoglou sort of hit rate, was it great? Some of it was a mixed bag, but by and large, most of it was good. And as we said, this current side is still the last vestiges of the Ange Postecoglou team. We're 5 years into a bloody cycle, and they're still around there. So I think and somebody saying someone with a connection to the club. I'm not a big, massive, they get it, they know the city and all that stuff. That helps. It does help. But I just feel that Ange Postecoglou, I know there was a wee bit of, as we said, issues with the board not backing, but by and large, he stayed around, done what he had to do, and he left. He probably left on fairly decent enough terms with the board. I just think that we need to get ourselves together, and this is that. And a Punch, I don't know. I don't know why you want to disagree. Like, this sort of wake up for fuck's sake. Like, I'm not criticising you, mate. I just hate whenever it's petty replies like this. What I'm saying is they gave us a football lesson, but that suddenly makes him qualified. Derek McInnes gave us a football lesson, so we're going to go and get him. Stephen Robinson gave us a football lesson, we're going to go and get him. Because, by the way, I've heard people saying names like Stephen Robinson. I can guarantee you right now, if we go and we get Stephen Robinson, if we go and we get the Marvel manager, if we went and got a sacked Jimmy Thielen, see all the people that like what they've seen out of that, they'll quickly become disillusioned. Because, yeah, exactly. If Danny Rowe taught us a lesson, we're going to go and get Danny Rowe. And I just says, I'm not getting on you, Punch. I know I love your input and I love that you're here. And you're obviously talking about someone in the comments. I said, I can only see the comments as they come up, but I know that because I had mentioned this, I don't think he's ready. I thought that's you talking to myself. But no, honestly, I'll be totally frank with you. I don't think these guys are ready. That's the reality. Yes, he's been in management for a long period of time, as is a Jimmy Thielen, as has a Stephen Robinson. But at what level? At what level have they been at? It's been provincial clubs, it's been sort of smaller scale clubs. Expectations are different. Time is a factor. Look at Motherwell again, garbage for 4 months. Now, they were brave and stuck with them, but you don't get that level of time. And that is my worry, because he wants to play something that isn't too dissimilar to the principles that we saw with Wilfried Nancy. And I think he'd probably be more pragmatic and trying to look at it for different avenues rather than just blindly sticking with it. But the same idea is still kind of there. So I have more faith in him making it work quickly than I did Wilfried Nancy. Well, it wouldn't be hard, but I still don't feel that that's a sure thing. I really, really think that we need to go and get something that is a wee bit better. I'm pretty sure that most of these guys will eventually go into bigger and better things. But do I think the manager at Motherwell goes on to a big club? No, I don't. I think that big within what reason? I think he maybe finds himself at a mid-table championship team. He maybe goes and gets a job at Copenhagen or something like that. Again, big job by comparison over there, but nothing massive, nothing that's on the scale of Celtic. And I think that's the biggest concern for me. And I'll be honest with you, it's not what you want to hear. I just don't think any of the candidates that I'm seeing really bowl me over. And that's where this is now a bigger question, a bigger guessing game than ever in which avenue we go down, particularly, as I say, is because the Tisdale thing's out the window. So we didn't think we knew who controlled transfers and transfer strategy and policy and all that before. God knows who's doing it now. And I think that, yes, that is unfortunately going to be another bit of shouldering of pressure put on whoever the manager's coming in. They're going to be asked to go and help find and identify players. I actually think probably that'll be de facto. It'll move on to Sean Maloney, which in itself, take it as you find it, it's maybe not the worst thing, because I would have trusted Sean Maloney to maybe identify players a lot more than I would Paul Tisdale. Obviously, there's chat of the scout that was at Chelsea. Don't know if that's been firmed up and confirmed as defo, but him coming in, that might not be a bad thing, because I think that's a good outside resource to go to. A lot better than the likes of Tosh McKinley and stuff being at scouting, which, to be honest, is quite frankly terrifying. And again, it feels a wee bit of nepotism, because guess what? Tosh McKinley is also an agent as well. So I could pretty guarantee that if Celtic needed, as we do, a right back or a right centre half or whatever, and he's happened to get one on his books and it's going to be a choice between his guy or this other guy that we're looking at, guess what one we'll probably go for? The one that he's going to get a wee bit of commission off of. So getting an external guy in, the likes of the boy for Chelsea, I'm all here for it. But we need someone in the meantime to sort of assume that position and support the manager coming in. And I think that candidate probably has to be Sean Maloney. Whether or not he's going, I would, again, I'm waiting for it to happen. I probably think Sean Maloney, McManus, Foynham, they probably take the game against Dundee United. I don't think that's a bad thing. Sean Maloney's already in the building, and it doesn't cost much to get the guys back on in a sort of pay as you're there, pay as you player, pay as you coach sort of set up. Will Martin O'Neill come back into the fold? As we said earlier on, I really don't know. I really don't know. I think that he probably comes in, and if he were to come in, it's going to have to be with a view of it being longer term than just stabilising the ship for a couple of weeks until we decide to get somebody in. Celtic need to make the decision on where we go in this January transfer window. Realistically, we thought the clock was ticking on the last time round. The clock is now ticking. I think this appointment has to be made within 5 days to 7 days maximum. We need this new manager in. We need somebody in ASAP. And as I said, see if that is going to be, nope, we're just going to go temporary between now and the summer. They need to make that decision within the week. It has to be done. They can't be scratching about. We need to make that decision so that whoever's going to be there, whether it's temporary or whether it's long-term, is in and can use this transfer window to get in what they need, because there's no point in Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney stabilising the ship for a couple of weeks and just guessing and getting in players, and then come into February, we go and we get a new manager, and that's what you're left with. That's not going to work. For a change, for once, Celtic need to bloody try and go and get it forward. And I agree with Sansan saying there, let's not ruin Martin O'Neill's legacy. I think he came in, he really done as a turn, he stabilised things. If we'd kept him on, as he said that he'd wanted, or it came out they would, then that's fine, that's his choice. But I think with the state and the fragility and the mess that we're in at this moment in time, it's a right gamble again to ask him to go again and to make it happen. And again, folk are saying Maloney failed at Hibs. I'm not talking as the Celtic manager, I'm talking about as what's there in temporary. Because would you rather it was the B squad getting promoted? Because we all know how good that B squad is. That tells you everything you need to know about their ability to manage. At least with Sean Maloney, it was part of something for that short period that had a better hit rate than Wilfried Nonsi did. So, it's like asking if you want stabbed or shot. But in terms of what's in the building right now, look, there's no other choice. It has to be him and the old band, maybe with Martin O'Neill if he was to go for it. But who knows? But it's a long way to go. There's a long way still for this one to pan out. Let's see what happens. Let's see how that manifests itself throughout the course of the week. We'll keep ourselves updated. And of course, if any of that comes out, we will sit here and we will let you guys know what is happening. I'm sure you'll have your finger on the pulse, refreshing your X and all your other social media, trying to get updates as quickly as we are as well. So listen, thanks to every single one of you for joining us. It is good news. It is long overdue. But yes, as it says there, Dumb and Dumber have been sacked. The man in the hat, Paul Tisdale, head of football operations at Celtic, is in the bin. Wilfried Nonsi, Hapless manager, and all his backroom staff are in the bin. It's another new chapter. Unbelievable. What a wild season it's been. But let's pick ourselves up. Let's get behind the team. Let's try and be positive. The question is, who is next? Who's the next one to fall? We'll keep yourselves in the loop when that comes around. So until the next time, take care of yourselves. And as always, hail, hail. See you later.